Fox News is no stranger to getting in trouble on behalf of many of its more colorful, quote-unquote, news personalities, right? The broadcasters, the stars, people like Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson and Lou Dobbs. But none have been more damaging to the company itself than those who push the Seth Rich conspiracy. Ah, yes, Seth Rich. That's rich. Okay, but it turns out, as I said, you might not have known that Fox News just paid a settlement to the family of Seth Rich. On October 12, 2020, Fox News agreed to pay millions of dollars to the family of the murdered DNC staff member known as Seth Rich. And so what this is, of course, is that it's basically an admission that the network had hyped up a false claim that the young staff member was indeed involved in leaking DNC emails during the 2016 presidential campaign. Interesting. So, all right. Now, this is from the New York Times, who reports that, who reports that this had happened. Okay. So, yes, this was a settlement to the family for putting out literal fake news about some poor staffer that got murdered. All right, so let's get into it. All right, so now this lawsuit, this settlement's an admission that the network had hyped this up, that made these false claims and made money off of it. But it turns out that in reality, you had Russian intelligence officers that hacked the emails, leaked them to WikiLeaks. Of course, WikiLeaks doing what they did as a journalistic outlet, they decided to release them. The timing happened to be around the 2016 election, which worked out perfectly. So now they didn't care where the information comes from, and I think that's fine, so long as it's legit information. And the emails were absolutely legit. These weren't fake emails that were fabricated by Russian intelligence. It's ridiculous. I actually covered these emails back in 2016. I talked about this. And we actually learned, as a result of these emails, how the DNC treats outsiders. They treat them badly. If you're a challenger to the Democratic establishment, they're going to come for you, okay? But regardless of where the emails came from, they were a valuable, important look into the corruption of the Democratic establishment, and since have been used to usher, albeit slowly, slow changes to the party to try to make it a little bit better. Now, obviously, as a progressive, we've got a long way to go, okay? We've got a lot of work ahead of us to try to reshape the party into one that's not like the one before, okay? That serves, that actually serves the people and can also actually win against Republicans and bring about real change. That said, Fox News did not cover that angle of the DNC emails. Instead, they decided to go with the Seth Rich thing. Because of course they did, right? Hillary Clinton murdered a staffer. Now, look, Hillary Clinton's a lot of things. I'm not a fan of Hillary Clinton. I don't like Hillary Clinton, all right? I think she's center-right economically on a lot of issues. I think she's a foreign policy imperialist. Not good. But I also don't think she's out there drinking the blood of innocents. I don't think that. Also, I don't think she's out there ordering hit jobs on DNC staffers. Okay, I just don't think that happened. There's no evidence of that. Again, I live in an evidence-based world, so if you actually have real evidence of those kinds of situations actually happening, well, okay, well then you would have presented it, right? But okay, and the thing is, the family of Seth Rich sued because Lou Dobbs and Sean Hannity wouldn't stop lying about their slain family member, even though they requested that they stop doing so. Fox not only didn't, but they continued to allow these hosts to rub it in. Like, oh, Seth Rich is dead. Seth Rich is dead. Yeah, he was killed by the DNC, murdered by the DNC. You can't just let it go. Now, the timing of this was actually pretty interesting, too, of the settlement itself. Fox's decision to settle with the Rich family came just before its hosts, Lou Dobbs and Sean Hannity, were set to be questioned under oath in the case, a potentially embarrassing moment. It's because they didn't want them in front of a judge. Because that would have been a pretty big news moment, would have been a pretty big trial. And then they would have had to admit in front of a court, in front of a judge that, like, no, we're just making this thing up. Well, yeah, we're making this whole thing up. It'd be just like Alex Jones. I'm an actor. I'm an actor. You can't actually trust anything that I say. Or Tucker Carlson. Oh, well, no one in good, no one can actually believe all the things that I'm saying. I mean, come on. I'm an actor. I'm an actor. I'm just being an entertainment person. That's all I'm saying. So they love to hide behind that defense. And so that was interesting. Not only that, but another interesting fact is that Fox News actually paid so much that they didn't actually have to apologize for it. There was a story back in 2016 of FoxNews.com that talked about this that ended up having to get retracted. But it gets better. One provision that they had, that they had insisted on during the settlement. Okay, we're going to pay you millions and millions of dollars, sure. But can we get one thing? And we got to keep it secret for a month. Just a month, till after the election is over. Okay? So now basically that means that, a story that would expose us for being shameless liars and hurting a family of a killed staffer. We want to make sure that that's covered up, that nobody knows how shamelessly we've lied about this particular family during an election year. Now, that's really interesting. Now, the other interesting fact is that maybe they also did this because of Donald Trump. I mean, Donald Trump is buying into this conspiracy. There's almost there's almost no conspiracy that President Trump doesn't actually actively buy into. I mean, he is very conspiratorial minded. And so from what we've seen, birther conspiracy, for example, Seth Rich, obviously the election fraud stuff, although I think he more believes in that because that affects him directly. So, yeah, it's, again, pretty ridiculous. And so now Fox News and their lawyer, Joe Terry, declined to answer why they wanted to keep it secret. Two people close to the case shared details of the settlement with Ben Smith, who was also confused. So they're like, that's an interesting question. Why? Why didn't they want this? Why was one of the conditions to keep it buried until after the election? Definitely politically motivated. Definitely. Maybe they thought, again, Donald Trump would be pissed off about it, would leave, and a lot of Trump supporters would lose faith in the network. I don't know. But regardless, it happened. And so now, maybe one of the reasons too is that this report pushed back on what's known as Russiagate. So now, Russiagate, I used to think I knew what it means. Maybe I don't know what it means anymore. What is it anymore? It's kind of turned to this nebulous thing. Okay? Very, very nebulous thing. In fact, look, I know what I know. Russia hacked the DNC. Yeah, of course. And guess what? They also did social media trolling and had bot farms. And of course, you had the efforts to connect with the Trump administration as well, or the Trump campaign. That said, I don't think it changed votes. I don't think there's no evidence that Russian hacked elections or changed vote totals or are really responsible for Donald Trump's win. Did they try to use whatever influence they could? Sure, through social media. That's only going to reach people who generally already had a dislike of the Democratic Party and Hillary Clinton. So really, you're just reinforcing that echo chamber on social media, okay? But it is obvious, though, that they did favor Donald Trump over Hillary Clinton and tried to offer him material support. We've seen that. Maybe because they knew he's a disaster or whatever. Now, on the disaster part, they were actually right. That said, can you blame Hillary Clinton's loss on Russia? No. At the end of the day, Russia didn't run Hillary Clinton's campaign into the ground, which absolutely happened. Didn't stop her from campaigning in certain states, etc. I think the Russian stuff has been weaponized and politicized by both sides. Yes, I know, this is the one time I'm going to play the both sides game. All right? And here's why. Liberal Democrats blame Russia. They see Russia, everything Russia, as an evil, plot. While Republicans ignore that Russia did interfere in the 2016 election because they themselves, Russia has imperialist ambitions. Well, so does America. America's imperialist. Russia wants to be imperialist. Russia's like, yeah, we want what you have. We want to exert our control over the other countries, over our part of the world. And so, if America's foreign policy is stunted or they align with our goals, well, that helps us in the long run. And of course, we've seen that with the annexation of Crimea and the budding relationship with both the Turks and al-Assad. But again, I really don't want to litigate 2016 or relitigate 2016 again and again and again. But I feel like I needed to do that in order to help give you some context into this, the proper context. Because this conspiracy was made, I think, partly to deflect suspicions of Russian involvement in trying to help the Donald Trump campaign. And that's it. The fact is, there's never been a shred of credible evidence that Seth Rich had any sort of contact with the Russians or WikiLeaks. And a series of bipartisan investigations found that the DNC had been breached by hackers in the Russian intelligence agency. And then, of course, we had investigations. We had people that looked into the facts. We had, numerous corroboration of this from different agencies. Nothing pointed to Seth Rich. Just some people online with YouTube channels. And, of course, Republicans who just for some reason felt like caping for Russia. I don't know why. I don't know why. And by the way, when you look at the people that are still spreading this conspiracy, I don't know. It seems clear to me that this is a death, unfortunate, that was weaponized for political purposes. And so it's divorced from the facts. And that has, of course, a devastating effect on the families. Okay? Because the people that knew him best, the more that they hear his name being used in this way, in this manner, I mean, that's got to kill you. That's got to hurt you so much, hearing all of this stuff. All right? I mean, they had to watch in real time conspiracy theorists on Fox News and other places say all sorts of unfounded garbage. Which, by the way, that story immediately collapsed after it got released. In fact, the former Washington, D.C. police detective whom Fox used as its on-the-record source, Rod Wheeler, immediately took it back. He repudiated his own quotes claiming ties between Mr. Rich and WikiLeaks and a cover-up, and said in a deposition this fall that the Fox News article had been, quote, pre-written before I even got involved. Pre-written. So, yeah, he just happened to say what Fox News wanted him to say. But it took him being under oath. And that's, of course, why this settlement happened in the first place, because they didn't want the people that are spreading this conspiracy on Fox News to go and actually have to sit in front of a judge and face perjury charges. As it turns out, you can't actually lie in court because you're going to get in trouble. You're going to have a bad time. It's going to be not good. In fact, Aaron Rich, the family member, said it fell apart within the general public within 24 hours, yet Hannity pushed it for another week. Finally, Aaron Rich said he sent Mr. Hannity and his producer an email, and the barrage stopped, but he said he never received an apology from the Fox host. Quote, he never got back to me to say, sorry for ruining your family's life and pushing something there's no basis to. Apparently, sorry is a hard 5-letter word for him. True. And a Fox News spokesperson, Irina Briganti, declined to comment on Mr. Rich's request for an apology. That's all he wanted. For him to say, we're sorry for, using the death of your son, your family member, as a way to push this ridiculous conspiracy theory on our site. Oops. Even so, the damage had been done. Okay? His parents said in a court filing that the barrage of conspiracy theories had damaged her mental health and cost their mother, Mary, her ability to both work and socialize. And while they did stop doing it, Rich's brothers said that they wished they would have owned up to it. But as you can see, of course, that happened to never be in the cards. They had never admitted that they lit the fire, he said, which at this point online is still burning. There are still people that are spreading this conspiracy theory, even people on the left. So, I mean, It's ridiculous to see this happen, to see conspiracy theories and fake news about this person continue to get spread just to harm the family, and push back in this ridiculous, just to push back in this ridiculous way. But now Fox News, I think, in addition to paying damages to the family, which they're doing, should issue a public apology. But again, they were able to weasel out of that, and not have to do a complete repudiation of the conspiracy. It's because, well, even though they can't talk about it anymore, well, their viewers still believe it. They believe it, and so that is something that if you decide, no, I don't believe in that, then you're no longer part of that group. And well, for a Republican, for a news network, especially that has competitors like Newsmax and OAN, of which, Republicans are now increasingly going there because these networks haven't been hit by these conspiracies yet. Well, or I should say charges for these conspiracies, for spreading these things. Well, I mean, the obvious choice for Fox News was to push it as far as they can in order to get the monies. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.